Good morning, Meerah.
Good morning.
I'm honored to have the opportunity to interview you today. I have read the article that featured your personal story. And I was born in Japan. I grew up in Japan. Women in Japan in my generation had very little advancement in society. Therefore, I have a deep sense of empathy in your personal story. So I'm going to ask you some questions based on your story, but let's continue to talk according to our emotion and passion.
I love that.
Thank you. So first of all, you became a CIO of Palo Alto Networks in 2022. And could you please briefly share the journey of how you got into the cybersecurity world?
I would say my story started as a technology more than cybersecurity. I was born in India, very similar culture. A lot of the things, the conservativeness of Japanese culture, and especially from a South Indian point of view, it's also extremely a conservative community, extremely a conservative culture as well. And for me, the first break was really convincing my parents that I want to be an engineer. And I wanted to go out of my hometown, a small village, small town, to go into a smaller city, only 60 minutes away from my hometown. But I have to convince my parents that I'm okay to go out and live in a dorm and study my engineering. I just fell in love with, when I was in high school, I got a chance to, really experience computer for the first time. My neighbor boy was having a computer. It was all about a small game and doing some fast math. It just fascinated me. And if anybody asked me, what do you want to be? I didn't know the word software engineer. So I used to tell, I want to be a programmer. That was my dream. So I actually took computer science and engineering, started working on really some small companies and then large organizations, working for organization like Nautel, which has actually spent a lot of energy in their R&D organization, developing products, and then worked for some startups in Silicon Valley. And there was a point in time in my career, I was really enjoying, trust me, I'm a geek at heart. I love technology, but I also like people. And I really want to be, not just be a technologist, but how I can connect with people more. I want to see the technology's outcome. I want to see people using my product firsthand, not like I produce, somebody sells, somebody uses, and then somebody tells me. I want to be that front-end person, but don't want to leave technology. One of my mentor advised saying, go and join a company that will actually look at technology as a strategic advantage for the business. So I joined a company, a multi-billion Fortune 100 company, IT organization, leading a lot of transformation. And that company, I used to work for Cisco, no secret here, and that exposed me into a little bit of cybersecurity. I mean, that was still like very, very early days. They were not a security company, but a little bit of that, because when you talk about network, what is the security components you need to think about? And from there, I went to McAfee, spent time in McAfee, and I just realized it's not just technology, because cyber as an industry is evolving so fast. I like challenge. I like pushing the boundaries. And cyber is perfect, and it also has a great purpose, because today, if you look at the world, everything is becoming digital. With the AI coming, the speed is like going exponentially higher, very fast. And we need to protect take critical infrastructure like your electricity, your water supplies. Even I used to work for a company called ForcePoint, and at that point in time, the chairman of the board, Tom, he was actually the CEO of Raytheon, he used to tell, the future war will not be on the land and the sea and the air, it will be in the cyber world, which is happening. We know that today it's happening, right? So for me, there's a deep purpose, there's a constant challenge, and then what you can do to business to make a difference really motivates me.
Thank you. Thank you. So now you are in the cybersecurity world. Do you think there are any specific challenges of women in cybersecurity?
I would say technology as such is not a lot of women. Like if you take the number of CIOs, it is less than 18% at this point in time.
Yes.
But if you take that to cybersecurity, it's less than 10%. And it gets, because there is this perception if you're in cybersecurity, you are the person with that black hat sitting in a dark room and really working with malware all the time. But the reality is, when you think about cybersecurity, most of your breaches are not just happening with somebody sitting. I mean, of course, that's very important, right? Ethical hacking, hackers, and understanding, all that is important. But also, there's a lot of process, there's a lot of policy, there's a lot of social engineering, behavior things that go with it, security as well. So honestly, we need to encourage more people to get into cybersecurity, more women to be staying in technology and really getting enough in the table, right? Because I'm a firm believer there is diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Diversity is making sure you have numbers, right? Having a seat at the table is the diversity. Inclusion is, are you being involved in the decision? Are you able to participate? Yes. You can push your way through. You can pull up a chair and sit at the table and push your way through. But belonging is where you will really see the difference, because belonging is an inner thing. Am I feeling, not just I'm including myself, is everyone including? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the culture that I feel I belong there? Or I'm constantly feeling like that left out person, odd man out or odd woman out, trying to put myself in. So unless we get through from diversity to inclusion to the belonging, it's going to be a hard journey. And we really need to focus on creating the critical mass to, really accommodating and making sure that inclusive culture is coming to really people feeling. It's like a effort that once you get the ball rolling, it's like a snowball, you can get more, but it is still a challenge.
Yes, I totally agree. Inclusion is, for me, is a respect for others and respect for myself, but because of that, I can be authentic. That's something, my goal as well.
Yes.
So, Meerah, can we actually do something collectively to build this kind of inclusive and diverse workplace?
Absolutely, absolutely, right? When you think about it, there are three vectors. Number one, how do you bring the future generation to really get interested? That means, I like organizations like Girls Who Code and Girls Start. These are organizations, talking about some of the US organizations, I'm sure there are some in Japan as well.
Yes.
This is really encouraging the little girls to think about technology and experiment with computers. It's not just cyber. They have to get interested in that. That can be cyber, that could be other things, right? How do you build a pipeline from the middle school, from the high school, and really through education?
Right.
That's one vector. The second vector is your hiring.
Yes.
How are you bringing more workforce, right? Sometimes, I struggle too. When I'm hiring my leaders, I tell hey, I need diverse candidates, not just gender diversity. I look for other diversities like ethnical diversity, cognitive diversity, but we are talking about gender as a diversity right now. So gender diversity is something I say, and I will tell you, sometimes very hard, especially senior women leaders. It's not easy. You have to take that explicit, time and energy to look for inclusive. And I'm the first person who will say, don't hire somebody who's not qualified just because they are a particular gender. That's not what we are advocating. Because at the end of the day, even the women don't want to be at the table because they are a woman. I want to be at the table because I deserve the job the best, not because I'm a woman, right? That's everybody wants it. So make sure, but are you casting your net wide? Are you including enough people in the interview process and looking hard, because you have a smaller pool? That's a second vector. The third vector is, once you bring, are you creating an environment that is actually going to allow them to blossom? Because there are differences in how people approach thinking, thought process. That's actually a strength. That's not in my opinion, something that many times we look over and say the majority wins type of a thing. So how are you creating? So that's a third, the culture that you create that inclusiveness and belonging for people. So those are the three vectors I look at how we can continue. It's going to be a journey.
Yes.
We have been talking about this journey. I work for a company, a startup company. 3 years, I was the only woman. 3 years, I was the only woman. My running joke was, I used to have the bathroom for myself, where the entire company shares a bathroom. But It is actually, I can tell today there's a lot better,
Right.
but it is not there yet.
I understand you got married very young.
Yes.
And, right after graduating from university?
Yes. A week after from my graduation, or 1 week after I turned 20 years old,
Oh my gosh.
I got engaged, and 3 months later, or less than 3 months later, I was married.
Wow, it was very...
It's a typical Indian arranged marriage. We didn't know each other. The families connected. They said, okay, here's the boy, here's the girl. They did the family matching. And they said, okay, now we are going to get you married. Do you both like each other? Not really. It just is a formality. And then it is like, but it was one of the best things because my husband turned out to be the best.
Right.
Before even the word women empowerment, he was a cheerleader for me from the get-go. The very first conversation we had, he was like, I need you to be independent. I don't care what money you're making. You can spend all you make, but I really need to be, which is also something I want to be a career woman too. And he has been my mentor, friend. And I always tell, right, as women, many times, you have to recruit your family in the journey. And it's true for men also, but right, I mean, if you want to have in life, whatever you want to do, your family has to be supporting. But for women, because of the social norms in certain culture, the expectations, right, you have to really have that strong support system. That could be your spouse, that could be your parents, that could be your siblings, your in-laws, it doesn't matter. So for me, my husband was a pillar of strength.
Wow. But not everyone has this kind of cheerleading, right?
I agree. I agree. I was definitely lucky from that point of view.
Right.
I mean, I was very young. I have no idea of what is the real world because all I knew was the little town and my college. And then I'm thrown into Bangalore, which is a very big city. And he literally used to tell me how I should approach thinking about job, how I should approach interviews. So it was amazing.
Wow, what a coaching, guiding.
He was a mentor for me.
Yeah, that's
my
true.
first mentor. I mean, when it comes to workplace, my first mentor.
Wow. Has that experience influenced your leadership today?
Definitely there is influence because what I learned from him is he's always not just for me, he did that for many other folks as well. And we always used to tease him saying, never the king, but the kingmaker. His name is Raja, which also means king in our language.
Yes.
So we always say, you have a name king, but you're always a kingmaker because he actually influenced so many people in their career, including my siblings and whatnot.
If you could meet your younger yourself, what kind of advice you want to give to her?
I mean, I'm a kind of person who believe in the philosophy of living with no regrets, honestly. What I mean by that is, it doesn't mean that I'm okay with suboptimal performance.
Yes.
I almost feel like if something happened, you learn from it
Yes.
and you move on. And you don't dwell in it because you can't change the past, but you can learn from the past and change the future.
Right.
So from that point of view, I wish I could have taken a little bit more risk. But honestly, it's not a regret, but there are times I was like, well, I'm not sure, I want to play it safe. I could have taken more risk. That's one thing. The second thing I always actually thought about is, I wish I learned the lingo of connecting business and technology because I was so hardcore programming and software engineer. There were many opportunities that came and said, okay, you should think about moving into business and doing things. And I was like, well, I love technology, so I don't want, it's not either or because I learned it, in some ways I'm glad I learned it a little early. Technology is a means to the end. And I tell everybody, I mean, you can be the geek at heart and mind, but at the end of the day, what is the outcome it's going to produce? How you're going to create, whether it is a social outcome, whether it's a business outcome, and by itself, it's like potential not being used, right? So how do you connect that and how we can encourage younger people to understand connecting those dots? Because in today's world, AI will generate your code. If you're going to be a programmer, that's not going to be your value proposition. But how can you use or guide AI to do the real problems, whether it's human problem, societal problem, whatever the other problem, business problem we can solve, right? So that connection is something I wish that I've spent more time learning as well. Today, I can do it. Wish it was earlier.
Yeah, so you put the soul into the technology,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right? That's what you're
Yes.
aiming for.
It's a life.
Yes, that's great. So Meerah, thank you very much for your time today. I learned a lot and impressed a lot. And is there any specific message to women in Japan?
I'm a firm believer when it comes to constraint. It is your mental constraint more than the true constraint. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everything is hunky-dory and easy and you can just jump. If you really want something, the entire universe will conspire for you to get it. It's a famous quote from Alchemist, the book.
Okay.
And I truly believe in it. So, coming from a society very close to Japanese culture, I think know what you want, why you want, not just what, why you want, and then just go after your dream. The universe will conspire to make it happen for you.
Thank you. We can be whatever we want to be.
Yes.
Exactly.
It is just here.
Just here.
And here.
I remember that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I really had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.